You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day, because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your new vehicle. We're Auto Credit Express, and we've helped thousands of people just like you. Antonio H. told us, great company, got me connected, and the day I went in, I drove off in the car I wanted. 100% worth your time. Need a car? Get started now and drive off as early as today. Just text FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911 right now to get started. That's FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911. Auto financing the easy way. Text FINANCE to 357-911.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to For Immediate Release. I am Liz Neuerfeld, and I'm joined once again by my partner, Billy O'Reilly. We are looking forward to a long conversation tonight, just the two of us, tete-a-tete. We are not going to have a guest. We've got so many topics to cover, and we haven't had a chance to talk to each other in a while either, so it'll be a great opportunity for us to cover all the news of the last week or so. So, Billy, great to talk.
I just want to talk about how much I hate politics, Liz. That's my message for the night. I hate politics.
I thought we were covering new issues.
Yeah, exactly. We'll tie the new issues to that sentiment.
Oh, probably once a month you tell me you've sworn it off and you're never going to work for another candidate.
I'm never going to do politics again.
Oh, is it one particular thing that's put you over the edge, or everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, it's just everything. I mean, it's just everything right now. I mean, what a week we just had, and it's like rolling into the new one, and it's just everybody is just so full of it, It's just the back and forth and the back and forth. It's just so dull. It's so boring. It's so trite, and it's so counterproductive. Not like I can't take a hit in politics. Like I'm willing to dish it out and take the hits and the rest of it. And I know it's a hard hitting sport, but right now it's just stupid. It's just people saying stupid stuff back and forth.
You're involved with here in New York with running against Andrew Cuomo, or
yeah, yeah, but I think all of them. If you just anyone who has a Twitter feed can just watch a Twitter feed for 30 minutes and just feel their souls eroding. Just kind of vanishing away into the ethers. It's just no, you did this. No, you did this. No, you did this. I'm not touching you. You're not touching me. I mean, it's really. It's like it's a childish environment right now, and I can be childish at times, but you get sick of it after a while.
Well, and it's hard. The people who are distinguishing themselves are not people in this arena, that's for sure. And I find that even just watch the old-fashioned evening news, and the first 28 minutes are just this guy's terrible and that guy's terrible, and then it's a political ad, and then this story, and this helium balloon exploded, and this plane crashed, and this gunman went crazy, and then at the very end, here's a cat video. It's like, okay, I haven't seen, and there are plenty of elected officials who I shouldn't say plenty, who I support or like to see do well or I respect, but certainly not through this process. This brings out the worst in everybody, and I just cringe. The cringe factor has reached a new height. Or a new low.
Yeah, I mean, this week. I mean, if you want, do we even want to walk through it? I mean, everybody knows what the last 7 or 8 days have been about, and the reaction is it's not as bad as the crimes, certainly, but it's just people use tragedy to score temporary, like minute by minute political points, and we're missing the big picture here. I mean, it's just not going anywhere. I mean, the bomber saying, and I guess there's still packages out there, but some lunatic out there sending stuff all over the country, and it's just the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's Trump and it's not Trump and it's this Trump and it's not Trump, and then the same with the terrible shooting in Pittsburgh, which is just unreal. I mean, it's unreal. It's just unreal, and it's like instead of everybody kind of mourning together or joining hands, the fight goes back and forth. Mark Molinaro in New York, who I'm working with, offered a civility challenge to Governor Cuomo today in New York, and I'm not trying to hit Governor Cuomo, but I got to just say what it is. He said, let's pull for the rest of the campaign. For God's sake, it's 8 days. For the rest of the campaign, let's pull down anything that can be construed as negative, because this is out of control. And all day long I watched as his spokespeople hit us on that. Well, why aren't you saying this about Trump? Or why didn't you say this about this? And it's like, we're trying here,
Well, and also, Andrew Cuomo is the sitting governor. He should be leading this. He's the one who should say, let's all dial it back. And quite the opposite. He never misses an opportunity to hasten to an open microphone to blame everybody on the planet for a problem. Starting with stuff going on in his own backyard. And I find that he's, his hypocrisy, and we've talked about this, the hypocrisy around his criticism of Trump. And I've got plenty of my own concerns and things I don't like about what's coming out of the White House, but and what my expectations are for any president. But coming from Andrew Cuomo, it's really it's laughable, but he gets away with it.
But he sees everything as like, what's the political opportunity? And I get that. Politics is a game, and you do the opportunities, but in extraordinary times, and I don't mean to just pick on Governor Cuomo because we're trying to get, do civility in New York for the next week. But in extraordinary times, there has to be, you got to let your guard down at some point and say, yeah, let's actually do this for the right reason. We can go beat up each other next year, but right now we've got to take it down. We've got to take it down. And I got to tell you, Liz, I'm genuinely concerned. And I know, people say that or write that, but I'm genuinely concerned that the vitriol in the country and the divisiveness in the country is that it can't be fixed without some major blow up. And that's a genuinely scary thought. I mean, you had in Florida today bullets through the Republican window, and I mean it's on both sides certainly. But what's going to end this? I mean, do you see anything ending this?
No, and what troubles me the most probably is that usually the best place to find security and comfort and kindness is in your own backyard with your neighbors. And what's happened over the last few years is this divisiveness at the national level has, I would say, trickled down. But what it's done is corroded the sense of community everywhere. You just started a couple of years ago during the presidential election where families, they were fighting over the Thanksgiving turkey. Which is just, enough. People really have to make a truce. We will not discuss politics tonight, or we will not discuss Trump. And so if you can't talk, if you're fighting with your next door neighbor or your cousin or your sister about this, how are we going to solve any of this? Because certainly the leaders, and I've used that term, air quotes around it, are not a good example. So, with the kids at school are hearing their parents talk about their neighbors who they don't like and they don't trust anymore, and, like I said, relatives fighting and local mayors not leading the way they used to make people feel welcome and safe in their own neighborhoods. So if there are too many topics that are off the table for discussion and there are so few things to rally behind, even at a small local, what do we have left? And so I agree with you. I think some Armageddon here maybe ultimately what happens, but God help us all. That's really what it's come to.
I remember talking to you, Liz, in 2008, I guess, as the stock market was crashing, in the really worst and darkest days when. And
I told you to get out early, but you didn't listen to me.
Yeah, I did.
Are you bringing that up again?
Right. Get rid of Intel.
Yeah. Dump it.
So, but I remember we were talking. I was driving someplace and we were talking about what is it? What's going to save America? We thought that was the depths of everything, but it seems that we've fallen deeper. But I had this gnawing thing that there's got to be a spiritual element to it. And is that what's missing here? Is the lack of the move towards secularism? Is that this? Is that part of it? I mean, spiritually we're missing something. I always think about Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a former senator from New York, who used to talk about defining deviancy down. And he had actually a report on that and talking about how, when the values start to go, when things start to become acceptable, when certain language or actions becomes okay, or you look the other way, or even sexuality, acting out, that type of thing, or drugs, all those things, when they start to become acceptable, you define deviancy down. and you end up with this. I can't help thinking that's where we're going, that we're spiraling down.
Oh, I agree with you completely about the secularism or secularization. I mean, we could have a long conversation about the world going to hell after many schools stopped, standing for this Pledge of Allegiance because they didn't want to say under God in the classroom. The parents objected. I mean, this is really, that fight started a long time ago. I think it transcends everything. It's terrible. It's interesting though, one of the things that I love so much about watching sporting events is just the way everybody still, you look at the faces in Yankee Stadium or at Fenway Park or out in, the Dodger Stadium, during the God Bless America in the seventh inning or even at the national anthem, and there is a sense of unity. People are yearning for it. They're desperate for it. But you just don't see it. You certainly don't see it on college campuses. You don't see it in schools anymore. There are so far fewer people sitting in church pews where I live. I don't know about you. And then to see something like this happen over the weekend in Pittsburgh, it's just and interesting to me to see how old all the people were who were there. Remarkable actually, and that's made it that much more tragic that these folks who would have for their entire lives defined by their connection through their synagogue. Yeah. What does that tell you?
And you had people who had gone through the Holocaust and had survived those times and got to America, or whose families got to America, and then to go down in a hail of bullets, 70 some odd years later. I mean, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. You mentioned the baseball games. My favorite part of baseball games or any sporting event, but especially baseball, is the national anthem. And I brought my daughters to games, when they were very young. I started bringing them, and they became baseball fans early. But I really brought them to see the national anthem, even more than the game, because I wanted to have them see people take their hats off. Just a little thing like that. It's like, why are they doing that? And it means so much. And I think you're right. Those people are yearning for it. And but at the same time, the whataboutism just goes back and forth and back and forth.
When you think over the last couple of years, some of the most tragic occurrences in the country happened in places of worship. I mean, the shootings of the church in Texas, then also in South Carolina, and then there was the temple in Pittsburgh, and then also in schools. I mean, these are two places where you really always felt the most safe. Obviously, it's from a lunatic standpoint, it's where you get sitting ducks, frankly, trapped in a confined space where they're easy targets. But when you really stop and see what that represents, I mean, that's terrifying. People get scared when they go through airports, and that's to be expected. You're on edge when you're, in places like that. But for God's sake, in church and school, I don't know how we ever reverse this course.
Yeah, I remember after 9/11, there was a time when I was commuting through Grand Central every day, and I think Grand Central was the number one terrorist target in the country at that point. FBI guy, told me that was that was number one, and the main terminal, which is the grand room of Grand Central, and so for a while I would walk along the tracks, so just automatically I wasn't thinking, I was automatically walking along the track side. Because I knew it was a target. I mean, a lot of stuff in New York was a target. It was 2001, 2002. And to think, I stopped thinking about that, some years ago, and just walking through the terminal again. But to think that what most haunts people now, and especially young people, isn't foreign terrorists. It's Americans. It's regular people. And it's not, maybe sometimes it's religious, but it's just rage, and it's political. And Pope Francis, and I've not been the biggest fan of this current Pope, but he talks about evil, which is a word that was kind of off the shelf for a while. I thought, at least among many people, remember they would get down on George Bush for using evil or Reagan for using evil, which he used properly. But he talks about evil again, and there is some evil in the world right now. It is spreading around like a dark cloud. It's like getting on people's clothes and they're acting on it. And I don't know how to get rid of it, but we'll keep talking about it.
Well, you and I were talking before we started tonight about the remarkable leadership and spiritual inspiration that George W. Bush showed right after 9/11. And I mean right after, like an hour after. Just the way he made a point of rallying everyone behind the Muslim community, made sure that the country knew that this was not a fight against, Muslims, that there were radical elements out there that did not define the whole religion. And people listened and followed. And that had a lasting effect. I mean, for years. The economy was in the tank. And remember, everyone made a point of shopping locally and supporting their local stores. And this real sense of it was genuine, of people coming together, that we really were one. And, and I'm not saying this to blame the president. I'm just in general, I think we're so far gone right now that I'm not sure what one person can do to bring this back. But we certainly collectively have got to figure out a way from the top down and from the bottom up to do something.
I think it's one of the reasons, I started the show by saying I'm so sick of politics I can't stand it, and you laugh at me rightly, because I do say that every year. I'm never doing this again, and I've been doing this for 32 years now. I'm out. I can't do it. I can't stand it. But there's everything comes down to advantage now, like everything in politics. And like the national anthem, my favorite time in campaigns is always, it continues to be, election night, win or lose, when the phone call goes into the winning side. Like that kind of stuff. There were manners there that still somewhat exist, but they've gotten very sketchy in the last few years. There was custom, and there was a nobility to that. And that's what I loved about it. But now there's none of that. You can get away with saying anything. You can run ads, and it's part because, in part because the press is so hollowed out, because of the speed of things and the way you pay for media is being challenged. But you can pretty much get away with saying anything. You can put utter lies on television, and it happens all the time. Like utter lies, 100% lies, and you can't get the stuff off the air. And then people repeat it. No, not in time
to make a difference. That's exactly right. You can go file your claim with the Fair Campaign Practices Act Committee.
You can't even get it off the air. Yeah, the stations won't do it. They just won't do it. You can't get it off the air. And it used to be, okay, so if you put something that was false on the air, first of all, the networks would pull it off, or the stations would pull it off eventually. But also there would be you'd be hammered so badly by the press and by the public that you would relent. It would hurt you more than the ad benefited you. And now with the way that the news cycles move so quickly, you can leave it up there forever and get away with it. You'll take one shot, but 20 minutes later, there's something going on in Pittsburgh, or there's something going on someplace else. And so, people are putting really irresponsible stuff on the air, and the public is buying it, or not really caring about it. I don't know how you undo that. I don't know how you undo it.
Well, does this get to the issue of supply and demand? If there weren't an appetite for this, they wouldn't get away with it? By they, I mean the people who are putting it on the air, or
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I was saying, when we first called into the show tonight, I was working on a speech for tomorrow morning for a client doing a draft, and he'll run through it late tonight and make changes. And I was doing a speech, and it's highly civil. and there'll be press in the back of the room. We'll probably have,
everyone will be asleep.
Yeah, everyone will be asleep. There'll be probably, maybe 10 or 12, 14 reporters in the back of the room, some cameras. And I'm writing a highly civil draft here. And what they're waiting for in the back of the room is, where's the hit? Where's the stinging? Where's the gotcha? Where's that moment? But in the defense of the news media, they know that that's what people want to watch. That's what works. That's what sells newspapers. That's what moves eyeballs. That's what gets gets clicks. That's what gets forwarded. And so we're in that environment. That's why it's so kind of worrisome, because there's a reason that we're here. It's because it works. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It's real. This is what we've come to naturally. This is not an unnatural condition. This is, what we've created as a country.
And what's not being reported is a lot of the what I guess the media would consider boring policy substance in any of these speeches. I mean, I don't think any of us need to see another clip of the president or Maxine Waters or Kamala Harris or anybody else out there throwing, nasty barbs and name calling at other people. And yet it's the same clip that runs over and over again. I couldn't tell you how some of these folks voted on any of the last 5 issues bills that were out there. Well, I could guess based on their party, but really, we talked about this during those Kavanaugh hearings. The staged remarks, the 5-minute opening remarks by everyone on the Judiciary Committee, nothing of substance, all attacks, all gotcha questions, all designed to embarrass Judge Kavanaugh. What would you learn from any of that? So this gets to don't televise it because there's no news, but the news folks are guiltier than anybody. They've actually created this.
Yeah, and I got to say,
candidates like yours have to say something on TV.
CNN is so out of control. They have destroyed their brand, and maybe their numbers are up now. I'm not sure where their numbers are this week or this month, but they have completely destroyed their brand. It's just 24 hours a day, and I would watch it for a while because you'd want to catch up on the Trump show. It's like we're watching the Trump show. I mean, Donald Trump has a way of capturing attention, and if you want to catch up on what happened during any given day, you could put on CNN. But it's gotten to such an extent, it's absurd. Like you look at Jim Acosta or the reporters. Liz, when you were at the White House and you were working in the Reagan-Bush administration and then the Bush administration, the camera would be on the White House spokesperson, on Marlon Fitzwater or on the president himself. Now the camera is on the reporter because they're making news about themselves. Like
exactly.
It's always like you're looking at Jim Acosta, thinking of the question to get into a fight with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and it's like that's their news segment for the day, is the fight they got into. I mean, that's not hard to do. It's not news though.
No, and they're the biggest hypocrites of them all. I mean, I think President Trump is exactly right when he says, he made those guys and that they all want him to be in the race for a long time because he's the one who drives their ratings up. I mean, no one's watching some wonky conversation. Like I just said a minute ago. No one's sitting there. C-SPAN's audience is way down. Way down. So
I can't even do it.
So then for CNN to criticize him 24/7 after they gave him $2 billion of free media, just ask any other candidate in the Republican presidential primary in 2016, they know that number inside out. CNN created this platform for this president, and now they're going to keep it that way so that they have this whole thing going for the next 2 years.
Wolf Blitzer, more breaking news. It's like, stop it. It's not breaking news. It's just, watch how so-and-so schooled the president today, or watch what the president said that was so outrageous, or, it's a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace.
Well, if you watch the coverage of what's going on down in Central America, the border, I'll just call it the caravans because that's what everyone else is calling it, but what's going on down there, I haven't seen or heard one thoughtful explanation, discussion about how important it is and what the goal is for these folks who are trying to cross over to get arrested. So once they're here, they can claim asylum, which they can't do if they're over there. There's real substance behind all of this drama, behind why they're doing things the way they're doing it, and what's at stake here with the president sending border security down there, actually, troops. Instead, all we hear is histrionics around, from both sides, about look at these photos, look at these poor families who are escaping oppression, and then look at Trump trying to keep these people out of here, and then also Trump and his folks screaming, these people will be turned away and arrested and, and we'll cut off all aid to Honduras.
Right.
Where's the substance about the immigration policies that are not in place that should be in place?
Yeah, and who organized the caravan? I mean, that just doesn't happen. Who organized it? What's going to happen? Right. What has been the policies of the country for how many years? What are they supposed to do legally? You're absolutely right, Liz. And the other thing is like between, Fox and CNN and MSNBC, which I can't even watch. It's as though like every night you get your talking points and then, in the morning you go out with them. So when the lefty says this, you say this, or when the righty says this, you say this. And it's just these stupid talking points that go back and forth. And what bothers me sometimes, I'll hear stuff that I came up with. Things that
are people using it against you, or are they using it?
No, it's just like talking points that like we developed on campaigns like 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago. And it's like, when you're working for a campaign, it's like, what's the perfect comeback to this? And you sit there and you do debate training and like, if he says this, you say this. If she says this, you say this. And you work on this stuff back and forth. And eventually it gets out there into the public and no one's having a conversation. It's just, if you look at Twitter, it's like, what's the perfect retort? And and that's all it is. That's all it is. And it seems to be what people want. But Liz, where do you think
there are any
goes?
undecided voters in this cycle anywhere?
I know in New York there are some, but it's about 10%, and there are probably fewer in some other parts. But I guess it depends on district. I think there are some undecided voters, and those are the voters that that are I think trying to take this all in and make rational decisions. But the money coming in is just astonishing. I mean, it's astonishing.
I just saw that the Florida,
especially
Senate
for the Democrats. Yeah.
The Florida Senate race is the most expensive Senate race in history. Not just Senate race, it's the most expensive. $96 million is spent in Florida.
Incredible.
With the Rick Scott Nelson race. Yeah, they're also dead heat.
Yep. In the individual House races, you're looking at $6, $8, $10 million, $12 million, per candidate. But especially on the Democratic side, there's just money pouring in there, and it's just, I have no problem with money in races. I got to say, I'd rather just allow it all in there and just make it accountable and make it visible, because I don't think there's a better way to do it, frankly, because I don't think you suppress speech, but it just shows you, where the forces are. I know in New York 19, for example, there's a candidate on the Democratic side who's raised about $8 million, and I think 86% of it or something is from out of state. It's just people playing chess with their money to try and win a majority in the House, and or preserve a majority.
When the Federalist Party was just getting started, and you and I talked about the premise of really the foundation of it, and I hope you'll talk about this tonight. Term limits. We also talked about campaign finance reform, and I'd always thought, so long as the money's disclosed, I don't care how much is coming in and where it's coming from. But the power of incumbency now and the incumbents to raise money is extraordinary, and I don't know what we can do about that. I guess we have term limits and it's not a problem, or as much as a problem.
Yeah, I think term limits helps. I sometimes get weak-kneed on my position because of exactly what you're saying, Liz. Where I see,
how does Mark Molinaro, a spectacular candidate in New York State, and I'm not just saying that because you're working with them. I've been following all of this, not to mention that I know the sentiment of most New Yorkers. They're very unhappy with this direction of the state. Yet there isn't to run a competitive race against a sitting governor and it costs $30 million. How is a challenger money?
Well, it's worse than that. And I just happen to know the stats for New York, but it's Andrew Cuomo's raised $101 million. And
he has
to get 101 million total over the last 8 years. $101 million. He's given away $52 billion in tax breaks and tax grants. And like millions and millions and millions of those grants are donors that give him, millions of dollars are from those donors. Plus you get, all the public advertising, not just Cuomo, but, all incumbents. You get the mail, you get every time that there's a hurricane, you step in and get the attention. You get the tourism ads and the economic development ads and the rest of it. It's really tough to challenge that. There's no question. But to me, the worst thing is to shut off the spigot on the challengers. Like you want more challengers. I had an idea which nobody would like, was to make donations get split. Like you donate to the race and the candidates have to split it. but
interesting.
There's probably a constitutional thing where you don't want to give money to one candidate, but like you give to the race, not the candidate. But
one of the other big issues that's come up here in New York, and I know it's going on everywhere. You've been facing this, is trying to get an incumbent who's coasting to actually agree to have a debate, a serious debate with advance notice, and where the public's welcome to both come and see it on as wide television audience, television is possible. And the idea that a sitting governor or senator or someone who's cashing a taxpayer paycheck does not make him or herself available for a debate, for re-election, to me, is criminal. It's criminal.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
How is that possible? And how does the press let them get away with it?
It happens. It happens now. I mean, it is what it is.
Maybe this is something that has to be resolved at the state party level across the country, and certainly, or in the national party. Just again around funding, you're not getting funding for X, Y, and Z unless the candidates debate.
And you mentioned before, and I'm gonna shamelessly do a plug for the Federalist Party of America, which I'm the chairman pro tem. All the leadership positions are limited to a year. Is that what? I'm sorry. Is that Latin? Are you using Latin around? That's about all I've got. But it's the Federalist Party of America uses a radical notion, and it's a notion that was from our founders. The radical notion of moving things down to the people, and I still think that is the best bet for restoring civility in America. I do. I may be wrong. Maybe something else will come along, but the idea of it is that the federal issues have to truly be federal issues, the ones that were prescribed in the Constitution, and that the other issues come first at localities or municipalities, and then if they can't be solved there, they move up to counties, and if not there, then states, and if not states, then you can go federal. But to concentrate the public debate and the political debate on the local over the national. And, when it's local, it's very personal. It can get nasty, it can get rough, but there is some civility to local because you all have to live around one another. And, if we could refocus a lot of our political energy on doing that and not, always go to the national. If you don't like it this way, we ought to pass a law that no one in America can chew gum on Tuesdays. Stop it. Start with your town here. We don't have to do it. I think there's genius there, and I know there's genius there because it came from geniuses, and they really thought this out, and they read history, and they read from the Greeks through the Romans, they read all the attempts, and they delivered a masterpiece that we're not paying attention to, and that we're trampling all over every day. So to me, the happy thing is that there are constitutionalist judges that are being appointed. I think that will help, but I think that's the direction the country needs to move in, is to move things more to the local.
Well, there's accountability that comes with the local government level that you just don't get at the national level.
Yeah.
You are literally living cheek by jowl in these neighborhoods. You're at the supermarket with your constituents. You are in church or temple with them. Your kids are in school together. And also, you're either delivering results or you're not that are very tangible. If you say you're going to renovate your park and you don't renovate your park, no new trees and no new playgrounds, the people say, well, she said she'd do it, and we'll give her a little time, but 4 years is a lot of time to get nothing done. Out you go. And they don't vote you out because they're on some rant about something bigger than that. People will throw out their congressmen or their senators, throw the buns out because I hate that whole party right now. Locally, generally, people, they have expectations for the quality of life they want. They want a value for their tax dollars, and they can see if they're getting it. And I think you're right. I think that was a genius there for sure. It's interesting to me that there are more people now who are screaming about what's going on nationally than there are locally. And I think it takes away their own sense of personal responsibility, and that bothers me. The responsibility cuts both ways when you're talking about the local stuff. When you move to a community, that whole word community means that you actually take some ownership of how things are going to go.
That's right.
It's blame Washington for everything, but no, you've got a mayor, but you're supposed to show up too every day. That's the deal. That's the deal, the pact between the new person moving into town and their local government, in my view.
And for the edification of our listeners, Mayor Liz Feld did build that park. And I saw it. I witnessed it. I was there for the ribbon cutting.
With a lot of great people. A lot of great
people. But what was your experience? Let's talk at that a little bit. I mean, you were a mayor of a mid-sized town for 2 terms, right? You did a couple of terms. Where you had some very demanding constituents. You had demanding constituents, like really demanding constituents. And what was it like? Like, what was the experience of that?
Well, I used to call it concierge government, but I don't think we want to go down that path. It was
we could take this 2 ways.
A very small village in a large area, a Sound Shore community of Long Island. So, right next to New Rochelle and Rye and Mamaroneck, about 20 miles north of New York City for people who are listening outside of this area. Really a beautiful town, and where you can still walk everywhere. Or bicycle everywhere. You really could. It's probably one of the only suburbs around you can get by without having a car if you want it.
You can get penny candy for $60.
But there's a real, again, partly because it's still, believe it or not, and this is a fairly quaint idea, but it's still an all volunteer government. I mean, the entire board of trustees and the mayor are still not paid, and there is something about that, and I think God knows no one's doing it for the glory. And it can be a little sticky when you're the mayor or a village board member and your neighbors aren't happy with you. I mean, I went through a couple of really tough times. I remember being at Mass on a Sunday and getting a lot of sneers because we were having a big to-do with our local fire department and thinking, oh, my God, if we're really going to be making dirty faces at each other over Easter communion. But, it can happen. But, it's a great experience. And I think, it gets back to, not everyone wants to run for local office, of course, but I think there really is a way for everyone in every community to do his or her part. You're on the library board where you are, Billy, and God knows
I am, and I'm the least likely person to be on one. Yeah, but I did it for that. Yeah, I did it for that reason though, to plug in locally and do something locally. Yes,
and when people move to town and they say, no one's taking care of this sidewalk. Well, what do you mean no one? Well, first of all, have you raised it with anyone? Have you gone to the public works guys and said, hey, a little problem here, or gone here? There suddenly, you got to show up. That's the whole point of these communities. Be part of your PTA or your local house of worship or your YMCA, or like I said, your arts, your arts festival. Do something. That's what makes the world go round. It's not supposed to be the mayor saying, this is how it's all going to work. But it gets back to what you said before, the accountability, and it runs both ways. And it's a good pact. I mean, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, it's not like, like Mayor Bill de Blasio gets into office and he's a nice guy in person. I don't mean to disparage him, but he gets into office and within weeks he's out in Iowa telling mayors all over the country what they should be doing.
Yeah,
and it's
I know.
Like, and it's like, for God's sakes, you mayor, you govern New York City. You know what I mean? The person who governs Iowa City does it his way or her way. Stop it. Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's very true.
You also notice things locally. Yeah. Go ahead, Liz. Sorry.
Yeah, you do. No, but I think I've said before, Mike Bloomberg years ago, when he was the mayor of New York at the time, or when I was mayor of my little village, and I remember going to hear him speak a number of times where he'd say that it's the mayors of this country who are going to turn things around, both infrastructure, who's going to take care of your water tanks and your pipes and your streets and your schools. It's sort of town by town, brick by brick, city by city that stuff really happens. Sitting around here listening to people complain all day about Washington is a waste of time, and it's not the way it's supposed to work. Those guys are supposed to do big things like putting someone on the Supreme Court, literally fixing, taking care of providing the safety net for the most vulnerable, doing big things. You don't want them in your business. I don't think you do.
No, it's right, but I can't remember the last time I flipped on the local news television. I guess I don't really watch television that much, and I guess I look at local news sometimes. It's always a breaking thing, though. It's a car accident. It's the local blogs that bring in regular news. It's just everything is geared. Is like there's an arrow out there in the media, and it's all pointed to the White House. Everything.
Yeah.
It's all geared that way. And now more than ever, I mean, it was always, pointed to the White House to some extent because of the importance of the presidency. but it's just absurd now. And I don't know what happens when Trump is gone. Does that remain? I think it might. Maybe to a lesser extent, but there's no longer the news infrastructure. I mean, there are listeners, tonight that have that news infrastructure. In parts of the country, there's very good local news, but in other parts, there's virtually none now. It's everything is national. Everything.
It's very true. I find, in New York, you get the news. There's so much news from the city and the 5 boroughs. There's not news on my local channel 2, 4, and 7 that comes from my community at all. In Boston, interestingly, where I live part-time, you get a lot more of that really local stuff. It's a much smaller town, so you can really feel like it's stuff that is going on in your backyard. But it's, local news, well, the old line, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, it's still generally pretty depressing. It's, fire in Quincy and rape in Brooklyn and, someone whose purse got stolen. It's not, you're not seeing happy stories about, like I said, tree plantings and Girl Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Yeah, which maybe doesn't sell, but at least it's local, I guess. And to go back to an earlier point, Liz, and this is the question that I've got tonight, and I thought about it when I saw that shooting in the Florida GOP office, that it was actually gunfire, and you well know that a Republican club in Manhattan on 83rd Street, one that was founded by Teddy Roosevelt supporters and President Roosevelt in 1902, really proud old club, had bricks thrown through the window and graffiti. They had a speaker that was not a good choice. It was kind of a firebrand speaker, but that seemed to give the so-called Antifa, whatever you call them, the rationale to spray paint the building and throw bricks through windows and glue locks and that kind of stuff. But you see these things break out. I always wonder, how does real political violence take off? We've been blessed in this country where we really haven't seen it for a long, long time. And, I'm really worried because now you see how it takes off. It takes off like that. It's tit for tat and back and forth. And I don't know, do we have to go through something like that is my question. What's your thought on that, Liz? Do we have to have the giant storm before the blue sky comes back out, or can we skip with that? Can we do something to move the angry clouds?
Or are we doing it bit by bit like this? Listen, there's always been evil, and there have always been nut jobs out there, always. What's scary is that now there's almost a license for people to go out and do this stuff. Because, first of all, they're watching it on TV all day, all this copycat stuff. I believe that's very real. There's a place for these guys to get themselves all worked up. Just go on the internet, go on the Gab. I didn't even know about that site, Gab, whatever, that the shooter was on Saturday. Did you? If you're kicked off Twitter, and there's this whole underworld. 9 million unique visitors a week or something, or chatting away. I mean, crackpots who are haters. They are white supremacists, and they find each other and they wait. And now there's a license for these people to go off and do this stuff. And like I said, there were always crazy people. John Kennedy was assassinated, and Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, and Martin Luther King was assassinated, and there were attempts on presidents' lives for years, and other random acts of violence. But now it's there because of the coverage, and frankly because of the language that across the board, from politicians and frankly people in the entertainment business. Listen to rap lyrics. It's all part of. I think it's all part of a piece.
Yeah, the whole cultural slide.
Let's get to the violence against women that has been allowed for decades in music and entertainment. It's not funny.
Yeah. But that was one of the reasons that I became a Republican, or that I'm a conservative, is the notion of that personal responsibility. Forget the rest of the country. I can't cure the rest of the country. All I can do is try and be a better man every day. And I fail every day. And I work in a really brutal business, and sometimes I probably hit harder than I should. And, you get in the throes of things. But that's on me. You know what I mean? The only way to do this, to me, is for each of us to take responsibility. And that's always been the American contract, that we understood that. And that's not how we talk now. It's
I
they,
think
they,
that's
they,
right.
they, you,
First of all, you're being
you.
hard on yourself. Can I say that? Wow. You don't fail every day. But I think you just hit on something really important, Billy, which is I'm not sitting here taking all my cues from Washington. I just wish other people wouldn't take all their cues from Washington. I didn't blame Obama. I didn't blame Bush. I didn't blame Trump. When I'm having a bad day, when I do something wrong, it's not their fault. This whole idea that they're responsible for everything that's going on, I think is an abdication of personal responsibility. I think you're completely right about that. Completely right.
Yeah. And all you can do is tend to your own garden. You know what I mean? Take care of yourself. There were a lot of things that I wish President Obama had not done. I thought he had an extraordinary opportunity to bring the country together in certain ways, and that instead there was some flames were fanned, and the billionaires and the millionaires and the 99 to 1 and
are you talking about the class warfare? Yes.
The class warfare, and even I thought Holder was a little bit. I thought he could have handled things better, but you can't say that forever. You got to let that go, and you know what I mean. At some point, you got to say, oh, okay, it happened. It happened. Let's move on. Let's all try and do better. And we wish you hadn't done it that way, and you may say that's exactly how we should have done it. Okay, we've had the conversation. Let's move on. But it's, the back and forth is just so tiresome. And
it is
unhelpful.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it is. And I don't know now. Everything is a referendum on the president. It's just wrong. Last night, first of all, we should have started the show after we talked about Pittsburgh and the bomber, just to congratulate our Red Sox fans across the country, Red Sox Nation, on a World Series victory, which is great. It seems to be not gotten nearly the coverage this stuff usually gets because there's all this other tragic news. But I will say, did you see last night? One of the first questions that Alex Cora, the manager, was asked was, "Well, are you going to go to the White House?" We don't know. Well, what is the point of that? First of all, I hope they do. I think all these teams should go. I think it's terrible what's happened there. It's such a shame.
It's an American tradition. Do it. Yeah, exactly.
Do it. The college teams that don't go, what kind of example are you setting for the kids? And I also just happen to believe that the best thing to do is to go down and actually say your piece directly to whoever you want to say it to.
That's right. That's right.
Go do it.
You get an opportunity to say a couple of words to the President of the United States. Right. You could say, I wish you would take it down a little bit, or I love what you're doing, whatever it is.
Yep.
You get that moment.
I want to be part of a solution. I'm not happy with this. Instead, you're making a statement by not going. I think that's just tragic.
But you just hit the nail on the head, Liz. Is that's the first question, or one of the first questions that comes out after? Right? It used to be, I'm going to Disney World. What are you doing after? Don't go to Disney World. And now, are you going to go? Are you going to go to Donald Trump? It's like, it's the World Series, for God's sakes. Stop it, please.
Stop it. I know.
It's baseball.
And I don't care whether you supported the president or didn't, voting for him when he got in. I still believe that we have a president. We have one president at a time, and everyone in the country should do your part. And even if your part is peaceful protesting against something you don't like that's going on, do it the right way. Just, God, how hard is that? What is this?
So every week we talk.
People rooting for his failure. So many people rooting for his failure right from day one.
Yeah. And frankly, it happened with President Obama too, where you had people on the right say we're rooting for his failure right from the beginning. And I understand. Yeah, you understand what they're talking about. No, we don't want this agenda to go through, but just you could be a little gentler with it. You could be. We support the president. We want to get an agenda that we can all agree with, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It just
or I'm hoping we can persuade the president this is the way to go. You don't stand up on day one and say, we're going to spend the next 4 years making sure he doesn't get any bills passed. So that's no way to start the conversation.
But that's the thing, Liz. It's like you're writing 2 fundraising letters, and I'll write fundraising letters for work, and you've written 1 million of them. You write one that says, I'm not going to let a damn thing go through, and this socialism is going to stop dead in my tracks, and I'm not going to do it. And then write one saying, we wish the new president well, where we disagree on this. Which one's going to bring in the money? It's the first one. I know, of course. You fire it up. Fundraising may be the most vitriolic form of political communication that's out there. You write some humdingers, to get people engaged and reaching for their wallets. But it's, It may be.
I don't know when
not
the
be
last
most
time. Can you
responsible.
point to a candidate who's run recently who won on an agenda of what he or she was for?
No.
I'm talking about somebody who's won, not necessarily.
Mark Molinaro,
Yeah,
if he wins on November 6th, that will be, he's really
right.
running the agenda on what he's for.
Yeah.
But, I'm close to that one. I'm sure there are others out there. I'm sure there are, but they're few and far between. I've got, and I think the Democrats have really blown an enormous opportunity that they got from this president because he is so careless with his words. They could have been presenting an alternative agenda instead of just obsessing on them. And I think they've really hurt themselves. I don't know whether they take the House or not. Everyone says the odds are that they take that. I don't think they take the Senate, but it's
no, it doesn't look like it. It looks like the Senate's comfortably staying. If not, they'll even pick up a couple seats probably.
But I think they've hurt their brand really badly. I mean, it's just to focus on Donald Trump and how many times can you use the word hate and hate and hate and hate and hate? There's nothing else there. Like, where's the old lunch pail Democratic Party? It just doesn't exist.
No.
And to the same extent,
and
where's the fiscally
really
conservative Republican Party?
But there's no leaders should be there. This started a long time ago with both parties. There's no elder statesman to really get everybody under, together and say, hey, knock it off. Here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to approach it. It's really, even within the parties, look. I mean, the extremes are deep.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Is who are the elder statesmen or stateswomen in America right now? Like, you could point to some, but then you're going to get attacked for whoever you pick. Like, is there anybody shy of Santa Claus that like, warrants mutual, universal respect?
No, it's easy. I was talking to a woman I work with this afternoon, and I asked if there's one person right now, or any couple people, who she thinks, and either in politics or just in business, who she thinks could stand up and really lead us, and not even as a president necessarily, but out of some of what we're in right now. She couldn't think of one person, and then we talked about Oprah. And I'm not saying that facetiously, it's just like we're people that there's almost no disagreement over, just God, that won't start a fight over the water cooler, Oprah was like, so there isn't anyone. I do like Nikki Haley very, very much. She's not elder.
Me too.
But she is a statesman, and I think she's certainly got the right attitude and approach to problem solving and to leadership. Who do you think?
I can't think of anybody. I mean, I can think of ones that I like, but they're going to get attacked, like a Ben Sass or even like you put out names, you're just going to get attacked by some people. Like, I like what Flake says, and if I mention Flake in conservative circles, I get yelled at. But I tend to agree with most of what he has said in the last couple of years, but he is so politically damaged as a result that he's not viable. And, I think, is it a sports figure? Is it a grandmotherly type? Like, where's Atticus Finch? Like, where is that person you go to when everything is awry for wisdom, for guidance, and that you trust?
Did you see that Aaron Sorkin wrote a play? Did To Kill a Mockingbird? He's got a Broadway version coming out.
I'm going to see it, actually. My wife Corinne got tickets for us.
She already got your tickets? Good for her.
She did, she's a theater person. I don't go that very often, but I wanted to see that, so that'll be nice.
Oh, good for her. Where's that against? I don't know. And I don't know if people think someone like Greenberg can do that. That's not the role I generally see him playing, although he's certainly sober and the bomb throwing. Nationally, I guess.
I think I'm losing you a little bit on the connection. And maybe is it me that's hard to hear? Only people that listen can tell. That's better, I think.
Okay.
Remember when phones used to work?
Have trouble. Yes.
Bloomberg?
Yes, nationally.
Yeah, I think he could go one of two ways. He could flame right out because he's too in the middle, or they could go to him. I think it could go two ways. So how do you see it?
Well, same thing. I think it's hard if you're going to go line by line. I said this I think a couple of weeks ago. I think the middle America will have a hard time supporting someone who will deny them a big gulp. And I say that for real. I mean, I don't want him. He took salt off my tables in New York, which just infuriates me.
Yeah, I hate that.
Fries.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't like that nanny state business. But, you know, putting that aside, he did do some remarkable stuff in New York. And I think he's organized. He's got an agenda. There are a lot of things I support very much, particularly in things like infrastructure, capital planning, financial, you know, fiscal solvency. Those things matter. There are other areas that not as, I can't get as excited or enthused about, but I don't know that he's got the persona, frankly, is probably the word. But
yeah, he's not the guy. He's not like the avuncular guy you throw your arms around and, you know, tell me a story, Grandpa. There's none of that really. But what you see is what you get. You're right, Liz.
Yeah.
I mean, he's all about efficiency. He's all about data. He's all about results. So, you know, I mean, he gives.
He's predictable. He's steady. He's reliable.
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
got a record.
Yes, absolutely predictable. He's not knee jerk. He doesn't jump from issue to issue. He brings data to the government. You know, so if you're looking for stability, he's a great candidate. I mean, a great candidate. If you're looking for someone who's going to, you know, be the standard bearer for a philosophy, not really him. You know, so I think it depends. But
and that's really going to be a Democratic Party decision because the legislature is going to need to get the nod from them. And look what's going on over there. I mean, they've got 20 candidates lined up.
And there's not one of them. I voted for Evan McMullen last time. I wasn't a Trump person, but I would never. None of these Democrats are even in the ballpark for me. I mean,
no.
You know, the policy. I mean, the expense that they're talking about is just insanity.
And it doesn't appear that anyone's going to primary the president right now, although I guess there's some rumblings about John Kasich doing that.
Yeah, and I guess that's to be seen. And, you know, at this point, he's got, you know, the president, I think, is going to, for all of his shortfalls, and I've written a lot about, you know, taking into task for things, if, my vote is his, unless he really blows it again. Just because I do think that enough good things are happening. I just wish he would tone it down, but I think he might be beginning to do that. I think it's slowed down in the last, 6-8 months. We'll see. And then he may go off tomorrow and say something else that'll make the world crazy. But, you know, he could do a lot better for himself. And I'm hoping that he comes to understand that.
Yeah.
But certainly the judges have been great.
The judges, and he's going to do a lot more of those at the end of the year. I mean, he's got this lame duck session after next Tuesday. It is going to be McConnell and the Senate. They're going to finish the year at a breakneck pace, getting these judges done.
Yeah,
and other
that's right.
Stuff. I fear, if the House turns Democrat, sometimes it's people, a lot of people, and I get this sometimes. You look divided government, sometimes you can actually get a lot more done. But given the distrust and the mistrust and everyone pandering to the extremes here, I don't have any confidence the next year or two with quote unquote divided government is going to help. The government's plenty divided and it's one party rule.
That's for sure. And also you talk about the Democratic primary when you have Cory Booker saying he's going to give everybody $50,000, to start their life. It's it's tough to run against that.
Lord. Yeah. I'll give you 60.
Exactly. I'll give you. Exactly. Yep.
Oh my Lord! Well, by this time next week, I don't know. You might be too busy next Monday for this. It's going to be election eve, and you've got a tremendous candidate. But we'll
it'll be fun to talk on election eve. That'll be great.
It will be. It will be good.
But as always, great talking to you, Liz, and thank you so much for everybody that's tuning in and listen to our limited wisdom.
Feedback, and also always love the comments. So please send them our way.
Great. Thanks
everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Be safe, everybody. Bye.